Hey, educators. So, does January sometimes feel like the real start of the school year, but without all the fresh start energy? Yeah, you're definitely not alone in that. Well, today we're going to dig into a really powerful framework that's all about helping you not just get through the rest of the year, but actually thrive. And the secret? It's about focusing on the great things you're already doing. So, let's jump right in.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about that mid-year marathon feeling. You know the one. Then we'll get into finding your strengths, how to actually leverage that success, and why the student perspective is so key. And we'll wrap it all up by talking about celebrating those small wins.
Okay, first up, the mid year marathon. It's that point where all of that back to school excitement has kind of worn off, right? But man, the end of the year still feels like it's miles and miles away. This is the tough part.
And this idea of it being a marathon's midpoint, it's just perfect. We're right in the middle, and it feels like endurance is the only thing that matters. But here's a thought. What if getting that second wind isn't about some brand new crazy strategy? What if the key to finishing strong is just looking at the momentum you already have? So it really comes down to a mindset shift, right? On one hand, you've got the complete overhaul approach, where you're just hunting for everything that's broken. On the other, you've got this idea of building on success, of finding what's already working and just doing more of it. Now look, this isn't about pretending problems don't exist. It's about using your wins as the actual fuel to tackle those challenges. And of course, let's just get this out of the way. None of this is even possible if you're completely burned out. I mean, we've all heard it, right? You can't pour from an empty cup. It sounds like a cliche, but it's the absolute truth. Taking care of yourself isn't some luxury add-on. It's the entire foundation for a great classroom. Okay, so where do you even start? How do you find these strengths? Well, our first strategy is something called the What's Working walkthrough. Think of it like you're becoming a detective in your own classroom on a mission to actively hunt for all the good stuff that's happening every day. So what does that look like in practice? Well, first, just observe. Where are your students totally hooked? I mean, really engaged? That's step one. Then, for step two, notice those positive interactions. When a group project just sings, that's what you're looking for. Step three, identify those moments when you move from one thing to the next and it's seamless, no chaos. And finally, step four, recognize when your differentiation is really working for a student. Seriously, these aren't just random happy accidents. They're clues, they're data. So get a notepad and actually write this stuff down. All right, so you've found these little pockets of awesome in your classroom. Now what? The goal here is to make that success intentional, not just accidental. So how do you capture that magic and make it a regular part of your playbook? Well, it's a three-part process, really. First, you gotta document it. Seriously, capture that lightning in a bottle. What exactly made that lesson opener so effective? Write it down. Second, share it with your colleagues. Your little trick could be a total game changer for someone else down the hall. And finally, and this is the most important part, replicate it, but do it consciously. The point isn't just to do the exact same activity again. It's to understand why it worked so you can apply that principle to other lessons too. Okay, next up, let's talk about getting feedback from your most important consultants, your students. Think about it. They have the most valuable data on what's working because they're the ones living and breathing it every single day in your classroom. And a really great way to do this is with a method called Glow and Grow. It's super simple. The Glow is where students tell you what's really helping them learn, what's working for them. The Grow is where they can suggest ideas for improvement. It's such a positive, constructive way to get feedback that is just, well, pure gold. And you don't have to make this a big production. It can be as simple as a quick poll or an exit ticket. Just ask something like, what was the most helpful part of today's lesson? Or when do you feel most engaged in our class? A single question can give you so much to work with. Plus, it sends a huge message to your students that their opinions and their experiences really matter in your room. Okay, on to our final strategy. And honestly, this might be the most important one for just staying motivated. We have to celebrate the small wins. I mean, the school year moves so fast, right? It is so easy to have a great moment and then immediately pivot to the next crisis, the next fire to put out, without ever even acknowledging that something good just happened. And we need to start with celebrating for yourself. And listen, this isn't about being self-indulgent. This is just straight up brain science. When you pause and actually acknowledge a win, your brain gives you a little hit of dopamine. That's the motivation molecule. You are literally training your brain to repeat the behaviors that lead to success. So when you see this on the screen, take a moment, however brief. That's a command. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It can just be a mental high five after a lesson went really well, or making a quick note in your planner about a tough conversation you handled with class. These little moments, they are the fuel that's going to get you through the marathon.
And it's the exact same deal for your students. When we make a big deal out of their wins, we're actively building a classroom culture where things like effort and growth are what everyone values. So how do we do it? Well, things like a shout-out board are fantastic for students to recognize each other. Or you could start a moment of mastery at the end of class to highlight a student's aha moment. But the real key, the big secret, is to celebrate the process. Publicly give props for awesome collaboration, for sticking with a hard problem, for thinking outside the box. When you celebrate that stuff, you get more of it.
So if you take one thing away from all this, let it be this. Real, sustainable growth is always built on a foundation of success. This whole mid-year reset, it's not about bulldozing everything and starting over. It's about finding the strong bricks you've already put in place and building on top of them one success at a time. So I want to leave you with this one question. Seriously, before you go back to your emails or your lesson planning, just pause for 10 seconds and answer this for yourself. What is one small win from this week that you haven't taken the time to acknowledge yet? Go on, think of one. Because recognizing that win, that's your first step. It's the most powerful thing you can do right now to build on your success. Thanks for tuning in.